Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Closing Bell on the Stock Movers Report. The companies making moves at the close of U.S. trading with Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, Romaine Bostick, and Scarlet Fu.
To the S&P 500. Once again, to the split there. 250 names, guys, to the upside. Scarlet, 241 to the downside, 3 unchanged.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP. And clearly, it's very lopsided because the biggest sectors are communication services, tech, and consumer discretionary. And they are the biggest gainers as well. Communication services, formerly the telecom group, up 4%. As a group, pretty incredible. Tech up 2.5%. Consumer discretionary, which includes Amazon, retailers, home builders, and car makers, that group is up 1.8%. The only decliners are two of the smallest sectors, energy and consumer staples.
All right, guys, let me get to some of the individual gainers. I mentioned semiconductors, definitely on a tear today. They were up, the stocks up about 4.6% in today's session. And then I would just want to highlight a couple of names because you did see a bunch of semi names atop the S&P 500 and I think also the NASDAQ 100. In fact, Broadcom is your number one gainer in both the S&P and the NASDAQ, guys. It is up 11% in today's session. Take a look at Micron, also a top gainer in the S&P 500. That's good for a gain of about 8%. It, too, is a top gainer in the NASDAQ 100. Couple things going on. You had Micron price target raised to 338 from 325 over at Morgan Stanley. Has an overweight on the shares. Memory stocks have sold off lately due to concerns about higher capital spending on the view that shortages may be easing, but neither impacts the firm's view, according to the analyst. One other thing I just want to mention, HSBC on Broadcom specifically, just pointing out the company's worked with Google to develop TPUs or tensor processing units for more than a decade. So HSBC adjusting its price target on the shares to 535 from 400 and maintaining a buy rating. So, I mean, just the semiconductors on fire. Speaking of being on fire, Alphabet, I believe this one finished at another record in today's session. It was up about 6.3%. It is up nearly 70% year to date, so easily outpacing the other Mag 7 brethren, if you will. Been on a tear. We talked last week about glowing reviews for its newly released Gemini AI model. And then just to throw in something non-tech, EW Scripps up about 7.5%. Sinclair, one of the largest U.S. TV broadcasters, offering to acquire EW Scripps for $7 a share in cash and stock, marking another proposed consolidation of station owners. By the way, that share price offers 70% premium over Scripps close on November 21st. So a lot of outperformers to choose.
Yeah, easy job finding the outperformers today. I want to start with some of the underperformers. Novo Nordisk down 5.6%. These are ADRs traded here in the U.S. And at one point, they fell to the lowest level in more than 4 years. The company did say that a pill version of Ozempic failed to slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease in 2 late-stage studies. We spoke to Madison Muller on our program a little earlier. She's been covering the industry for years. And the question that she said is, okay, what does Novo Nordisk end up deciding to do? Do they still pursue Alzheimer's as a potential area for this drug, or do they not do another study and kind of abandon it altogether? Also, shares of Copart, among the worst performers in the S&P 500, down 4.5%. This is the online vehicle salvage auction company. Shares today touching the lowest since 2023. JP Morgan analyst Josh Potswa lowered the price target on the company to $45 from $50. And finally, Performance Food Group down 2.3%. Shares fell as much as 5% earlier in the session. This after U.S. Foods said it's no longer pursuing a combination with the company. U.S. Food shares rose on the news.
All right, let's take a look at what the bond market did today. Pretty quiet overall, though you did see a bit of a rally develop here, especially when it comes to further out the curve. You take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield, down about 3 basis points. We are still above 4%, a little bit more when it comes to the 30-year yield, down about, you can round that to about 4 basis points or so. Overall, it does feel like when the 10-year yield, where it stands year to date, it just can't reliably break below 4%. I wonder what that means.
Still very much range bound.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
Yeah, maybe they're just waiting for that Fed meeting. I was thinking about Mary Daly, another one coming out saying she thinks, we could get, or she supports lowering interest rates come December. I'm trying to keep check of all of the Fed speakers and whether or not we're seeing more momentum when it comes to folks supporting another rate cut.
Well, I guess the question is where's the data that they're looking at? What is the data that they have that is telling them, okay, there are concerns about the labor market? We certainly have the alternative data, but we missed some data when it came to the closure. So, the question is, is the Fed going to be comfortable with the data that it has to make a decision on December 10th?
Well, soon we'll be in the blackout period and we won't have any Fed speak and we'll just have to wait for the decision itself. But just quickly here, we are getting some earnings. This coming out of Zoom, third quarter adjusted EPS coming in at $1.52. That is better than the estimate for $1.44. In terms of the look ahead, they see fourth quarter revenue at $1.23 billion to $1.24 billion. The estimate had been for $1.23 billion. So the midpoint of that range, just slightly above the estimate. You can see the Zoom shares higher by just about 2% in the after hours trade, Tim.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.